All right, Rusty, not the news you want to hear if you're a Georgia Bulldog fan today, as Branson Robinson, we just learned from Kirby Smart, is going to miss the rest of the season with a non-contact patella injury.
Yeah, that's not you can't really sugarcoat that, Wes, any way around this. That's a big blow to Georgia. That's a big blow to this offense. He was considered probably, I would say, in my opinion, the best running back potential in that room. He's a little bit banged up. Obviously, got hurt the last practice of spring, carried over into the fall a little bit. But to hear the news that Georgia will not have Branson Robinson for the year, there's really no way to sugarcoat that. That is a big blow to this offense as the season begins.
Jake Rowe joining us now. Jake, you were right there hearing from Kirby Smart about this Branson Robinson injury news. What is the full scope of this? What have you learned about it?
Well, I mean, that ruptured patella tendon, first of all, I feel bad for the kid because that's one of the most painful knee injuries you could possibly have. It's grueling. I mean, I ruptured a quad tendon one time, and I mean, you would have thought that I'd had something amputated. That's kind of what it felt like, to be honest. But I'm sure he was in a lot of pain, and that sucks for him. Listen, it's not good news at all, because Georgia is a little banged up at the tailback position. I want to say this, though. I think maybe – I'm not saying it's not a concern. It is. But I think maybe a tiny bit too much is being made of it, and here's why. Georgia went with 4 scholarship running backs last year, all right? And they had a point in the season where Kendall Milton was hurt, where Kenny McIntosh was also dealing with a deep thigh bruise. And so Milton was out, Kenny McIntosh was limited, and Andrew Paul was done for the season. So they had, Branson Robinson and Dejon Edwards kind of healthy there for a little bit, and then Kenny McIntosh could maybe do a little bit, but not a lot. Now, does that say Georgia wants to be in that position going forward? No, they don't. And but whether Branson Robinson was healthy or not, you're a couple of injuries away from being in a bad spot no matter what. And, the good news for Georgia is they got a great walk-on program. Savon Clark's a good player. Cash Jones is a really good player. Laneith Whitehead is a guy that they added this offseason, and folks can kind of say what they want about him not being an SEC back or this and that. I mean, he's got more SEC production than most of these guys do, whether he's a elite back or not. So I think Georgia's going to be fine. It's not an ideal situation, but ultimately, I feel worse for Branson than anybody because he was working his way back from another serious injury, one that had him out for a few months.
Yeah, I mean, last season, sometimes you see a Georgia freshman running back come on and take the world by storm, and it seemed like Branson, for one reason or another, just took a little bit steeper of a slope to get ready to go. What kind of work was he putting in? And Rusty, you touched on the potential he could have had. What is Georgia missing out on without Branson Robinson this year?
I mean, this is the hammer. From my opinion, this is the hammer. You saw him come in last year against TCU, and you start looking at those fresh legs and driving through tackles. And again, I get where Jake's talking about, but I do think this is the best running back Georgia's got. So I don't want to downplay it because they just lost, in my opinion, the best running back in that room. That doesn't mean they don't have help, because if Kendall Milton's healthy, and that's an if, we've seen potential there with him. Roderick Robinson, Jake reported all spring, the true freshman Roderick Robinson had a really good spring. Buzz is, and Jake certainly probably touched on this, and Andrew Paul, who's coming back from an ACL, seems to be, getting some reps too. You have Dejon Edwards. So look, it's not doom and gloom, but I can't sit here and tell you everything's fine because Georgia lost a valuable piece of their offense today. And I think Branson Robinson, some people are going to step up now and listen, this fall camp, things are going to happen. And, we've always said on DawgsHQ, no news is good news. And, I'm sitting there texting with Jake. We're talking about a few things, and Jake's like, I got to go. Bam. Next thing I know, the story breaks. So that's how quickly things can change in a fall camp in college football.
And I want to add this too, Rusty. I think you hit on something there. If you're a Georgia fan and you're trying to find out how you want to be worried about this, I'm probably not having to tell you how to be worried. You're probably worried enough. You're worried more about the quality of running back you lost than you are necessarily the depth. I think Georgia's going to have the bodies, and I think they're going to be fine in terms of depth, unless it just keeps coming. And in that case, there's nothing you can do to stop it, right? I mean, it's not like you can go out and add some running backs off the waiver wire. This is just the way it is in college football. If that guys start getting hurt, you got to make it happen. I mean, listen, does anybody remember where Alabama was going into the 2021 SEC championship game? That's a roster that gets managed extremely well. There was a chance that they weren't going to have a single healthy scholarship running back going into that game. It happens sometimes. It happens. And but I think right now where Georgia is, ultimately Kendall Milton is going to get healthy. That happens. Guys get healthy coming off hamstring injuries, and Georgia's going to treat it the right way. And they've got time to treat it the right way. Dejon Edwards is a very durable kid and a good running back. I don't think he's as high upside as Branson Robinson, maybe a little bit more consistent, but ultimately a veteran who is Georgia's leading returning rusher. And then, Roderick Robinson's a talented kid. Andrew Paul, listen, I've talked to people that saw the scrimmage on Saturday that said that he was the best running back out there. Now, he's still coming off an ACL, and I don't think his durability is going to be a question. It's just going to be a confidence issue and should be a guy that should get better as the season goes along. But I'm with Rusty on this one in this fact right here. That guy right there had such a good spring. I had so many people tell me that saw practice this spring, and a lot of Rusty, a lot of other people get to see practice in the spring than they do in the preseason. He looked the part of a feature back this spring. That's where it hurts Georgia the most. Is this guy could have been a difference maker for Georgia this year if he's healthy. He's not going to be. And again, the thing I keep coming back to, and I think I'm feeling phantom pains in my own knee right now, is the fact that he experienced such a painful, long-term, grueling recovery type injury, and he's got a long way back.
Cash money. We're not talking about Cash Jones here. So that's a guy that we've all heard buzz on. Wes, I'm sure, has heard, you hear the walk on, and, you see, what's interesting about him and little nuggets you get from time to time on social media. Go look at the Georgia, Instagram, the Georgia, X account, whatever all that is now. And look how many times he's in there. Look at all the pictures he's in there. The other day I noticed that Cash Jones is standing there with a Marius Mims and Cedric Van Pran and all those guys. And little things like that to tell you that he's making his hay as well in fall camp.
Yeah, Georgia missing a vital piece, the hammer, as Rusty called it. I don't disagree with that. I do see potential for other guys in the depth here with names that we haven't seen flash yet. Andrew Paul might have a little bit of a psychological hurdle, but with the schedule, that's the drum I continue to beat for Georgia. You have an opportunity to get Andrew Paul into some games, get some confidence in real game action. And then by the time you're in the meat of this SEC schedule, who's to say he can't alternate with Dejon and Kendall Milton, provided they're healthy as well. And like I said about freshman running backs, Del McGee said Roderick Robinson is kind of his own little project right now. He's like a little plant he's trying to nurture, is what McGee said. But same thing with him. Get him some live reps and let the freshman go out there and see what he can do. And, of course, Cash Jones is already a cult favorite, cult hero. Guys, I appreciate you hopping on. Stay tuned to DawgsHQ, our YouTube channel, and DawgsHQ.com for more updates here. Hate it for Branson Robinson. I know Georgia's got a top-notch medical program, and they get guys back quicker than the medical books say that you probably should. But this is anywhere from 6 months to 12 months for Branson Robinson, potentially, depending on how his rehab goes and how he approaches it. So definitely hate it for him, and we'll see what these other Georgia running backs can do with it. Thanks, guys.